Hello. So today we're going to be going over a fortune game. So I don't have a lot of fortune games on my channel. Typically, like, there's a couple of them that I just don't post because they're not like giga great. Like I got a couple like fourths and a couple like thirds with them, but nothing to write home about. This one is one that's kind of like interesting, and it's one that I did more recently, and people were asking about fortune games, so I said I might as well post one. In terms of fortune, I'm pretty bad at it. When I was like climbing like to master this set, I spent like, there's like a little bit of time where I wasn't playing that much, and then when I came back to the game in like Emerald, I was just trying to hard force fortune every single game. Especially like the start of master, I was doing that as well, right when I was at 0 LP, to try and learn it a little bit. The problem is they changed fortune halfway through the set, so I think in order to be really good at fortune, you have to really memorize like the cash outs, the timings, the tables, and everything like that. So because I don't have that memorized, I try not to angle fortune because I feel like there's a lot of RNG if you don't know everything that's gonna happen later, right? I'll talk about it a little bit later. I'll show you like what I mean by tables and fortune cash outs. Here I have Ink Shadow early. It's Trainer Sentinels. I have what's it called? I have Ink Shadow, Bruiser, and Fortune. So it seems like it's a very good like Xayah game. I keep that in the back of my mind, but at least for me, it's like I'd much rather just play towards like 8 Bruiser. In my opinion, like whenever I have a Bruiser +1, I feel really comfortable on the 8 Bruiser line. It is a little bit of a Silas check, but Tattoo of Force is also good on Silas. It's one of Silas's best items, I believe, at least in terms of like the Ink Shadow items. Force is also really good on Udyr if you can make it to Udyr. But in my head, what I'm thinking right now is I can kind of angle myself towards 8 Bruiser and then tech in the 1 extra Ink Shadow item, right? I can play like 8 Bruiser with a trick shot backline with the Xayah, and I'll make like some kind of creative board around that. Alternatively, you could just play the typical Xayah board and then play a 6 Bruiser frontline with a Bruiser +1, which works out really nicely as well. Here, there's Lucky Ricochet and there's Well Fed. I actually had both the things that were really good. It kind of sucks because I wasn't really angling towards Fortune at this point in the stage because I saw Well Fed and I was already thinking to myself I'd rather just play Bruiser, right? So I angle myself towards Bruiser. I see Lucky Ricochet as well. I was also live, so I didn't give it much thought. Besides that, here I just look at Fortune. It says that it's a 6. I have a Spark, which is a really good Silas item. And I have a Crown Guard, which is also a good Silas item. So to me, it's like I'm looking more towards just playing Silas. And I don't really care too much about Fortune. I think that like right now I have it teched in, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna remove it at one point, like very early in this stage, because I'm not really concerned with playing towards it right now, if that makes sense. But basically, like, I'm trying to get my inking app to work so I can draw a little bit. Let's see here. Does it finally show up? I have to reset this. So it's always OBS when they're always a little bit like iffy with this inking program, but I do like it, so I tend to use it. But anyways, I feel like Fortune's very hard to play because I have Well Fed. Well Fed into like Tomken's reroll is also an option. Well Fed into like Aatrox's Riven reroll is an option. There's a lot of like strictly Bruiser setups that are really, really, really good with Well Fed. But then Ahri's Kiss shows up here. As you can see, I won the first round. So I put in this Tristana. I said if I can just play Fortune, I'll see what happens. I win the first round. I say, okay, my board probably is pretty strong. I can make 10 here. I might as well just like not worry about this Tristana. I put in Sniper with a Tattoo of Force that I can put on somebody in the front line. I'm trying to figure out like what my strongest board is basically, such that I don't have to necessarily play around this Tristana. Maybe I sell the Tristana. Maybe I leave in Fortune. But I'm not necessarily like angling strictly towards Fortune is what I'm trying to say. Now, Ahri's Kiss makes it so that Fortune is a lot more viable just because she gives extra HP. Giving the extra HP makes it so that you can like push 1 extra time. You can hit that 1 extra threshold. You can make it that 1 extra stage. So that's basically what I'm thinking. Here, this is just my strongest board, even though it does have Fortune in. I basically make the Spark for Volibear, thinking that I'm going to play towards Silas, right? And I'll play like a Bruiser setup with Silas. This is what I mean, but it's not like a traditional Fortune game in a sense, but based on my items, right? Like if I had more like Xayah items, I would definitely lean towards Xayah from the get-go, and maybe take like Lucky Ricochet and play towards that. But because I don't have any Xayah items and I just have Sylas items, I more wanted to angle towards the Sylas to start. Like I said, I'm also not very comfortable playing Fortune. It's not a matter of like I don't know how it works or I haven't played it before. It's a matter of like when you're surrounded by people in lobbies that are very high roll. So for example, this one where a lot of people have dummies, a lot of people have what's it called? They have the potential to like high roll really hard and create these really high capped boards. It's not like going to be an easy Fortune game unless I get like a shit ton of Fortune related resources. It started with Ari's Kiss, which is really nice, but I am win streaking here. So this Fortune, even though it's like a 6-1, it's not really doing anything right now, and I don't really care too much about it. I just have it in because Tristan is a duelist, and it's probably my strongest board with this Volibear that I'm itemizing towards. So here I just slam all the items on this Volibear. I'm not going to play Volibear late game because I want to play towards these bruisers. But I basically have him in the middle, try and focus fire, have the Tristan do some extra damage, and try to win as many rounds as possible here, build up my bank, and put myself in a good spot. Especially with bruisers, a lot of times you want to be able to make it to level 9. There's a lot of like good options and good permutations on the board. If you get stuck on level 8, a lot of times you're like a little bit awkward, right? You really want to play bruiser with like an Irelia, for example. Irelia really ties the comp together really nicely and just does like a huge amount of damage. So either way, I just want to be really rich and I want to be in a really good spot for later. So now that I'm playing towards Sylas, I'm probably going to take like some sort of item to complete a frontline item, right? I'm down for making a crown guard, so taking this rod is really good for me. If I don't get the rod, probably I can make a steadfast with the glove, right? I might just take a Mumu for gold. Yeah, that's fine. Armor item, that's what I end up taking. The glove is a bit more flexible, but I just wanted the 3 gold because I'm just being greedy. Trying to make as much money as possible. Once we properly tech in Fortune, so right now I'm not really thinking about Fortune. Oh, this guy's kind of interesting, I think. So this guy took Metabolic, and he has a Fortune. I don't know. Is he trying to play like Teemo? Fortune Teemo, I guess. That guy's interesting. I didn't know that he took Metabolic. Because later in the game, like, it's not too much of a spoiler because I played this game live, so a lot of people probably saw. Or whoever showed up saw. But that guy, like, just played like an ass the whole game. So I don't know if he wanted to play Fortune. He's upset that I have a Fortune emblem. But what is he playing towards? He has 2 Jannas and a Lux. It looks like he's hard forcing a Mumu, right? With a really bad dummy for it. And he took Metabolic, but he doesn't have any Fortune units. So he's not even trying to tech in Fortune. So I don't understand what his problem is. I don't know why you would take Metabolic with a Fortune +1 and then like play towards this line, right? Because this line isn't a line where you want to lose streak. If you're playing like this Lux board, you really need to win a lot of fights early game. Anyways, I'm putting up my board for like the 8 bruiser version, right? And as you can see, I'm putting in Xayah and Sivir because I'm saying like, oh, I can play backline Xayah Sivir on level 8 and I'll be 8 bruiser with Ink Shadow because Aatrox is a bruiser and is also Ink Shadow, and that's basically like the board that I'm trying to build towards. I'm pretty rich, right? I've been making a lot of econ thresholds. I've been winning all of these fights. There's 1 or 2 people that I lose against. So here I can choose to make 40. There's one guy that even if I level, I'll lose, which I think is this guy. I'm not quite sure. It's the Story Weaver guy, right? The other guy I think I can beat if I level. Because if I level, I can put in Trick Shot. And with my front line, it should be strong. I think the guy I end up fighting is the Story Weaver guy. I think this is the one of the 3 that I was able to fight that wouldn't have made a difference leveling. So I basically took the gamble. Basically what that costed me is -1 gold, right? Because I would have been making 40 here. So I would have had +1 interest, right? From over here. The reason it was worth it to me was because the streak gold is worth more than 1. So it's like I have a 2 out of 3 chance to earn like +3 gold, or sorry, +2 gold. Right, if you have a 2 out of 3 chance to win +2 gold, I have a 1 out of 3 chance to go -1 gold. It feels like my odds are pretty good, so I went for it. So it ended up just being a -1 gold, right? Just in case you were looking at it, you're like, well, that's a crazy level. That was my logic behind it. Maybe it was right, maybe it was wrong. You know, that's what I was going for. So now this Fortune starts up a little bit. I'm still not really teching in Fortune, right? Like as I'm saying right now, if I was playing towards Fortune, you would definitely want to lose most of stage 2. Because if you just get those stacks on stage 2, the reason why losing on stage 2 is really important with Fortune is because if you have Fortune 2-1, right, it is very broken. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just uncomfortable with it. But basically, your losses count on 2-1. Like, they help stack your Fortune. But also, because it's stage 2, the damage that you get from enemies, right, like the relative damage that you get is very small, right? So you can lose for free without being in such a bad spot that you are unable to make it to those levels, right? To those high Fortune cash outs is what I mean, right? It's very different. Like, if you Tekken Fortune on stage 4, you can take like 10 HP losses every single round, except in stage 2 you're probably only going to take, if it's a 1-unit loss, you only lose like 2 HP, right? It's very economical to get those stacks up. But like I said, playing towards like 8 Bruiser doesn't really synergize that well with Fortune. Obviously, I was playing towards Trick Shot. Lucky Ricochet is probably a little bit better. We'll check the stats to make sure, because I did pass up on Lucky Ricochet because I wasn't really like angling towards Ink Shadow at that point. I was more angling towards like the 8 Bruiser cap, which I feel pretty happy with, right? I feel like I usually get either first or second when I play 8 Bruiser. It very rarely below second for me, so I've played that line multiple times. So I was going for more of a comfort pick that way. Here I'm on 2 losses now, right? So my Fortune is starting to stack. And then it's silver with Tiny Titans. So Tiny Titans is actually massive for Fortune because it gives you an extra 30 HP, right? Plus the RE Kiss, I'm already at 95 HP. So there's nothing really better than this. As you can see, I'm a little bit apprehensive. I can push my luck. So I already have it a little bit starting to stack. But basically, my goal is to push it twice, right? Because there's no amount of HP that will... I'm 120 HP, right? So even if I get a 6 and a 6... right, that's like you can treat it as like a -60 and a -60. It's pretty reliable that I should still be alive. So now we'll just talk about like Fortune in general, this is the part where it's might be a little bit awkward. As you can see, I'm scouting through everybody. There's a guy that's learning to spell with playing Faded, and he's holding Luxes as well. So that guy's extremely strong. I basically replace my units, pop off the items, make sure that my board is a lot weaker. And I could play towards 5 Fortune as well because I have the Fortune +1. All I need is an Annie. So if I get an Annie anywhere, I'll be pretty happy to play towards that line. But the problem is, this guy is incredibly fucking weak because I don't know what he's doing. But he's like hard forcing this Lux Janna line without really having a Lux Janna spot, in my opinion. Obviously, that's variable to change. You can interpret as you want, but we'll look at his spot later. And then also, I believe this guy, who is the highest HP in the lobby, Texan Fortune, because he takes Tiny Titans as well. That's why he has so much HP. And he has a Fortune emblem as well. So he starts sacking randomly, which is just such a bad play from his point of view. Which I guess you could say is also a bad point from my point of view. It's like the same difference. But like, I don't understand. He was like the strongest in the lobby, right? There's a clear difference between me and him, because at the time that he's taking now Tiny Titan playing towards Fortune, I was like 90 HP. I was middle of the pack, which is usually where you don't want to be. You either want to be at the bottom of the pack that you're streaking and earning a bunch of gold, or you want to be top of the pack that you're win streaking. This guy was win streaking, and I think he lost one fight and then he's decided to sack, right? He was playing around Story Weaver, which I thought he was just going like Fast 9 Story Weaver, which seems really, really strong in his spot, right? Because he not only has a Story Weaver emblem, he has a Warden emblem, which will then make his which will then give him enough front line to help support the Kale, because you can play Garen for free. You can even play like 4 Warden Story Weaver at a high cap. But because this guy's sacking and he's in my pool, and this guy is weak as shit, and I think this guy as well is weak as shit, I run into a problem where I can't properly play around the Fortune in a way that I can preserve a lot of HP. Right? What I mean by that is I have to full sack. I can't really afford to slam items, and I can't really afford to like play really aggressive in my positioning. There's an Annie here with a Rod. Now that I'm playing Fortune, my item economy is pretty bad, which I'll talk about after in a little bit. But I get the Annie. It's 5 Fortune. You kind of have to take the Annie, right? It just guarantees that you'll basically with 5 Fortune, you recover 2 HP per round. And it's not 2 HP after the round, it's 2 HP before the round starts. That's like the best way that I can put myself in a winning position, in my opinion. Because it's going to take me a lot to get there, right? I took Chainmail, I made Spark, I had a belt, now I took a Rod. As you can see, my items, I pretty much have 0 Xayah items, right? That's the problem with, I think, a lot with this set, right? Like, as you can see, I was playing towards like one line, and well, this isn't really a set problem. This is more of like a me problem. I can make Morello, which is pretty nice. The problem is, it's just like, how do I phrase it? I don't have Xayah items, and now I'm playing towards Xayah, so it's very risky, right? I'm really banking on having a high fortune cash out, as well as getting good item drop on wolves, or else I don't think that I'll I don't think I'll reliably be able to convert this to a first. That's why I don't like fortune in general. There's a lot of things that fringe and hinge on like certain things happening, right? Like, obviously I took this extra chainmail. Imagine if I took a glove, I would have IE, right? I should have taken the glove instead of taking the Amumu. That's a huge mistake, right? Because the glove also would have made a frontline item. The thing is, if I took glove, I probably would have slammed steadfast anyways. So, you know, it kind of works out to the same difference. But the main thing with fortune that happens a lot is that there's like a lot of moving parts that you need to have, right? You need to have Xayah items, you need to have combat, and then you need your cash out to go well, right? So you need all of these things in addition to like actually playing the fortune. And right now I don't have all of those conditions, but you know, I was live and I was streaming. I was like, okay, you know what? Let's just try it out, right? We'll try a fortune game, right? I still think like just playing towards bruisers like I was doing would have been a better option for me, which is what I was doing anyways. But because it worked out that it's Ari's Kiss and I had Tiniest Titans, it's like this is like a really good fortune spot. I just have to do it. This guy is going to be a fucking nuisance later. So this guy, not only is he really strong, he's learning to spell with Faded. If you don't know, learning to spell with Faded is like the best thing you can do, because basically it just constantly stacks up these little shitters that makes them really strong. And as soon as you have Syndra Ornn, you scale really hard into late. As you can see, I just got absolutely obliterated. This guy is in such a good spot that I don't think I'm ever going to beat him, even post fortune cash out. He's just that strong, right? Gnar 2 already, super stable. I don't think he's going to lose a single fight for the rest of the game. If he loses a fight, it's probably like mid-transition of some sort, right? But there is no way that this guy is going to so I already know that this is going to be a risky game. Obviously, I have to push my luck. I have 86 HP. It's a 4. 4 is, like, ideally I would have liked to see a 6, because I just want to get like the max cash out possible, but 4 is pretty good. When you're doing these pushes and stuff, something that really matters is understanding like the fortune cash outs, as well as like the tables, which I'll show you right now what I mean by that. So if you go here, so this side I usually use for my stats. Also, let's first see the item drops actually. Tier, belt, sword. So I have a death blade at worst, but I don't really have any Xayah items again. It's probably, I already made a Morello, so it's probably going to be like a crown guard for Silas, right? Oh, we should also see the augment, and then I'll go through the fortune tables and talk about the cash out. Yeah, it's that for redemption and declaw. So what I'm doing here is, you might be asking like, why are you like making items already? It's because I know when fortune cash out happens, it's going to be very difficult, right? As you can see, I have to full sack because this guy's weak as shit, and this guy is the other fortune guy who decided to just sack his game for no reason, right? So I don't know what he's doing, but whatever. Like, this guy was the strongest in the lobby, I'm pretty sure. And he could have just tempo leveled and stuff. And he's still like tempo leveling, but he just decided to like Tekken Fortune and play a weaker board for some reason. I don't get it, right? I guess it kind of just, he gets Fortune for free. So it's like, it's fine. But I feel like Tiniest Titans in his spot, I don't know. I guess it's fine. But he's Combat Caster Kale. Like, this is so fucking strong. Right, so as you can see, it just completely obliterates me. I don't think his cash out's gonna be that great, but I still have to be cognizant of it because he could have easily sacked to fight me, so I have to full sack. Right, it just puts pressure on me. Bulk is probably good here. Capricious Forge is really good because it just gives me items to put on somebody else, but it's kind of risky. It just comes down to like whatever my fortune cash out is, which is a little bit awkward. I think the bigger problem is that right here there's an encounter. And that's the same turn that my fortune cash out is going to be. So we're in a pre-level. We're in a level to 8. Right. The only guy that's really weak is this Lux guy. I don't know what he's doing, but whatever. You know, I guess that's fine. And like I said, I'm making all of these items ahead of time because I want to make my slams easier. Right. Having the items on bench. I can't slam any items because I'm too scared that I'm going to lose my streak against this guy. And then my streak is going to be griefed. And then my game's going to be over basically. Right. So I'd rather just play around a weaker board to make sure. As you can see, there's lots of people that are spiking really hard. This guy with the Shen is obviously going to obliterate me. And I'm taking a lot of bad losses. But it's mostly because of like these guys at the bottom that are just very, very weak board. Like there's a Lux guy. I think he doesn't even have a Mumu 2 upgraded. And he's just hard forcing the Lux. The Lux Janna comp, right? With Dragon Lords. So here I'm looking, I'm counting. It's like 3 cash outs going to be right on the encounter, which is rough because you really want a clean round to go through. And having the encounter there is going to make it a little bit awkward. For sure. Here, I'll show you the Lux guy. Yeah, right here. This is what I mean, right? If I pause the video, this guy is like level 6, rolling deep. He's not even close to anything, right? He's close to Lux 3, yes. But he doesn't have enough Jannas. He doesn't have that many items. He's playing like Teemo, I guess. Like he's trying to Tekken Fortune for like right now. Like he has 5 Fortune. Like this turn he's trying to Tekken Fortune. Which is not, you shouldn't be sacking at this point. You're already like losing. And then he has like no Amumus. And he's like less than 50 gold. Like I feel like his spot, like yes, he's hitting a lot of Luxes. But I feel like his spot wasn't good from the get-go. And he's also not playing around his dummy at all. Like he's just playing like Warden for a Mumu. But you're going to play Alawi anyways. I don't know what he's doing. So because he's so weak, I have to kind of position my board in a way that I full sack. Right, because I don't really have an option, right? I really need to like have this Fortune cash out work. This is why I hate Fortune sometimes. Sometimes lobbies are even worse than this in terms of the disparity. But I'm basically just getting railed by all of these people that are just like really strong boards. And I'm trying my best to like, you know, I have to kind of play around the fact that this guy exists in the lobby. So it's just awkward. It's just difficult. Right? In terms of like how weak they are. So, in terms of my Fortune cash out, see, this is what I mean by I'm not very good at Fortune. Like, I don't know exactly what kind of cash out I'm going to get. I know it's going to be a 90 plus, but I don't know if I meet the right thresholds to be, like, actually in the 90. Because I think the cash out threshold is, like, 93, so I need to hit, like, 95 or something. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a 90 cash out. 90 cash out should be, like, convert to first, like a win. Also, because of all the extra HP, I am a lot of extra HP, right? Obviously, it would have been nice if instead of rolling a 4... I would have rolled a little bit higher. Also, if I played Fortune on all of stage 2, I would be cashing out like an over 100 cash out, and it would be guaranteed a first. If you saw, there was a guy that has the Syndra with learning to spell. He already has a Syndra and it's stage 4. That's something to note. Just note how strong he's going to be later, because learning to spell with the Syndra already, learning to spell basically infinitely scales, so it's going to be really strong. We'll go over everything right after the Fortune cash out. I kind of just want to do the cash out round into the final thing, and then I'll talk about the tables and everything like that. So I have one more turn. I should gain like 20-ish, so I should be at 90. It should be above 90, right? So I should be the 90 cash out, which is pretty good. Like I said, if I had Fortune in stage 2, however, I would have been a lot higher, right? It's a lot of like the decisiveness that always bites me, right? I had a strong board, and I was able to streak for most of stage 2, so it didn't make sense to me to like sell my board and make myself a lot weaker for no reason, if that makes sense. So I really wanted to take advantage of that. Here I just full sack because I want to make sure that I get my last round of cash out. 21, so I should be like 97, so I reached the threshold. The next threshold after 90 is 130, which I think I would have hit if I sacked all of stage 2, but I might have been like one off anyways, so maybe this is the best I could have done. I'm adjusting my team planner just to have the trick shots in, right? Just to make sure that I transition properly into my board. Kabuko dancing is another problem, because now not only is there an encounter, I'm gonna have Kabuko items to deal with, I'm gonna have to Fortune cash out to deal with, I'm gonna have everything to deal with. Now I did slam my items ahead of time. I have an extra sword here and this. I'm holding them for Xayah/Xayah items. I cleared my bench, right? I found the Xayah already, which is really nice. But I cleared my bench to try and make it, cash out, gather everything, right? It's some extra components. And the cash that I got was a bunch of gold and a radiant item. I'll talk about it in a second. Because I got a bunch of gold, I go straight to level 9, right? Take this, take this. Trying to grab all the units and put them in. Xayah doesn't go in because I already put in the Galio, right? I need to sell certain units and put in certain other units. I find a Silas, I fit in Exalted, right, for this turn. I'm trying to rearrange my units, and it's very slow, right? This is what I mean. I'm very bad at this. Low APM. I usually need at least 1 or 2 turns to stabilize. That's why I like to have a lot of HP. I'm 36 HP, so I'm at least 3 lives in my opinion. Right, this round is probably going to be a loss. This guy has Yone 3. Right, it's not even like I fight one of the weak guys that I've been sacking for the whole game. But anyways, I'm building items on bench to make the Xayah ready. I could also make Crown Guard for a frontline item. I slammed these items on Silas. Maybe it's wrong. It's just because I didn't have the Xayah in. We'll talk about it in a second, and I'll go through everything like that. But as you can see, if I properly transitioned, I probably would have beat this guy, but he has Yone 3, so it's like, fuck. You know, if I had Xayah in, I probably would have been okay. But anyways, now I'm going to stabilize really well, right? This is why I really like it. If you usually want to time your cash outs so that they work, if you can, they work out on a neutral round, because now I just have all the time in the world. Now it's like, it's fine. And this is what being multiple HP really matters. As you can see, the Tiniest Titans and the Ari's Kiss, that's the only reason I really got like this high of a cash out, right? A lot of times I would usually cash out around 30 or 40 because it's just, to me, it's like impossible to do all of that in one round if you're one life, right? I'm just not good enough, right? I understand my shortcomings. Here I'm just like buying all my units. I'm trying to fit in my board. There's a couple mistakes here which I'll talk about in a second, but we'll go over fortune in general, and we'll go over everything else, and then we'll watch the rest of the game and see how it plays out. So here I'm trying to fit in this Xayah. I have my Tattoo of Force. I just put on Xayah. It's not a Xayah item. I made a mistake. I'm just trying to slam stuff fast. I need to slam these items as well. It's probably just Gunblade, and it's probably Gunblade Xayah. But anyways, from now on, I already have a Xayah 2, so I should be stronger than most people in the lobby, so we'll see what happens. This is the guy that I was talking about that I don't know why he just sacked his whole game, and now he's going fast 9, right? He's like level 8 not rolling, right? I feel like, was he always going fast 9? And this is just, like, he rolled a little bit for sure, but Tiniest Titans, and he's like very low HP now. I don't understand why he was teching in Fortune, but it's okay. And then there's like the other guy with the Luxes that I think is going to die a lot harder as well. But we'll see that after. Okay, so now let's go over Fortune. So in order to be good at Fortune, there's a couple things that I think you need to know about. So I know this is like kind of later in the video, and I know it might artificially add length to the video, but for the people that watch and been asking, I'm assuming that you're watching most of the videos, so it should help out a little bit here. Let's go over... so home, you want tools, tables, right? Fortune. So tools, tables, fortune. This tells you the rewards, right? So I think if you want to be good at fortune, you really have to know all of these breakpoints. I used to know them, and then they changed them, right? So basically what they are is they tell you like how much luck you have, as well as what the options of your fortune cash out are. And you kind of have to be ready for all of them, because a lot of times, like, you get a fortune cash out and you're not quite sure exactly what it's going to be. For me, it's like I was kind of, my breakpoint was 95 luck. This is what I was talking about. So a lot of times, like, if you're pushing luck or if you're not pushing luck, a lot of it depends on, like, do you think that you'll be able to survive long enough to get the cash out? But also you have to understand that, like, at certain numbers, like, for example, like, this is 95 and then this is 130, right? 130 is pretty much, like, a guaranteed win a lot of the time, except for, like, how do I phrase it? With fortune, there's always one cash out that kind of fucking sucks, right? Like, for example, this one. Like, it's a 130 cash out and you get 3-star 3-cost units. If you're not in a position to play around these 3-cost units, it's a very hard transition because you have to sell them, try and level, play around these tactician's crown, etc. Like, it is very difficult, as opposed to something like this one where it's like it just gives you a bunch of masterworks upgrades. So you just make a bunch of radiant items, and then you have support items that you can pick afterwards. Like, these ones are a lot easier to play around. So for me, I was the 95 luck one, right? I think the best one here is this one for 25%, right? You get Rascal Glove, Thieves Gloves, Blacksmith Gloves, right? So you're just up so many items, and then you also have the 2-5 cost, which gives you a chance of hitting the proper units. I got this one, Radiant Item and 70 gold. The problem is with Radiant Item is that sometimes you get a Radiant Item that's not very good. The 70 gold is actually huge because it makes it so that, like, as you saw in my game, I just went straight to 9 and I have a Xayah 2 instantly, right? This one's a little bit nicer because it actually just gives you the Xayah 2, so you can just roll on 8 and you can just play like Dragon Lords and you'll be pretty strong, like pretty easily. You just get a bunch of Dragon Lord M's and you're instantly like 5 Dragon Lords. So this is a really easy one to play around. You just put in the units that it gives you, and that's your transition, right? You don't even have to transition your board that greatly. You'll probably win the round with just 5 Dragon Lord Xayah 2 and shove items on Xayah 2. And this one's a little bit awkward, right? 2-star set, which doesn't synergize with anything, and a Blessed Bloodthirster, and then you get a bunch of dummies. It's like, it is really strong, right? It obviously helps you out a bit, but it's like comparatively to like some of the other ones, like for me the ranking is like 1, 2, 3, right? And that's the thing with Fortune, you kind of have to know all of these, and you have to know this ahead of time, right? Really good Fortune players, I think it will show later, right here. So this picture, when you put in Fortune, it increases by like set intervals, right? So if you start Fortune like a little bit later, so for example, I started Fortune, let's say like 3-1 or something, depending on when you start Fortune and how much your luck scales, it scales harder the later that you start it, right? So as you can see, it goes 1-4-9 instead of like 1-3-6, right? Depending on like when it starts and how you're pushing your luck and cashing out. So like a lot of good players, like if you're really good at like TFT and you're like practicing actively trying to like be the best, you'll like have most of this memorized, right? So like I'll be like, oh, I started stage 2-1 and I'm cashing out stage 4-3. I know that I'm gonna have a 97, right? Because I know that I'm gonna have a 97 cash out. I know exactly what I'm gonna hit in terms of this. This is obviously if your streak doesn't get griefed, right? But if you start with like 1 luck at one stage and you carry it forward for everything. So for me, I think it was like it was this one. Right, I started losing at 2-6. Right, I lost 2-6, and then I cashed out 4-5, and it was a 97. Right, you can see it right here. Right, if you know these things, then actively ahead of time you can prepare for it. Right, because if I knew I was gonna get a 97, I wasn't quite sure. But if I knew it ahead of time, then I would know, okay, I'm playing towards these ones, so I have to be prepared to have item slots open for this. I have to be prepared that I might be playing a set, so maybe I hold a Warden on my bench, right? Like I hold an extra Mumu or an Alawi or something, because I might have to play around this set, or I'm playing around Dragon Lords, right? You can prep for it, is what I'm trying to say. That's something that I don't do, and as you can see, that's why I get really flustered, right? It's like, what is my cash out? What is my thing? A lot of the point of Fortune, like a lot of the to make it more playable, that's why it's I think even in a dev interview they said today, even where they're like, Fortune is like really good because it's like really balanced at the high level. That's because at like a really high level, like if someone's like Grandmaster, Challenger, like a level above me, they would have put in the preparation to understanding, okay, I know what cash out I'm gonna get ahead of time, and I can play around it and not be like super surprised by it, right? And that stems back to like, as soon as you know when you started your Fortune and when you're pushing it and what the numbers are, you just add it up and you just know ahead of time. Me, I don't have that, so obviously I get flustered and I made a ton of mistakes, right? And now we're gonna go over the mistakes as we watch the rest of the video. So first mistake, I forgot the Tattoo of Force, that I had it, right? I remember I was talking about it, I said it's a really good Silas item. Guess what? I put 3 items on Silas, right? The Radiant item I got, I wasn't prepared to play around it, right? It's a Radiant GA, right? So or Radiant Edge of Night, right? The Radiant Edge of Night, it's really awkward, right? If you look at the stats, there is no stats, like of course for the free available, that says that it's good on Xayah and that it's good on Xayah, right? In my particular comp right now, I do not think so. Here okay, here's like mistake central. We'll talk about these in a couple seconds, right? So I don't have a Reforger, so I'm kind of stuck with this Radiant GA, which kind of sucks because it's not that good on Silas, right? I know for sure it's not very good on Silas, but I'm hoping that because I have really good Silas items, it kind of just helps him to go infinite. But Radiant GA gives AD and it gives armor, right? The regular GA, I remember it gives like a bunch of attack speed. So I was thinking that's an attack speed item, which is why I put on Silas, but it's mostly an AD item. So it's not that good on Silas because Silas is an AP unit, right? Typically you can see people put like, I say GA or Edge of Night. It's all the same thing, by the way. It's just like what people call it. I'm just used to calling it GA because it's easier on the tongue. But it's an okay Xayah item. It's an okay Xayah item theoretically because it gives AD. The problem is that usually you see this being put on backline units when you're playing against boards with a lot of backline access, right? For me, I put it on Silas because I'm looking at these comps and a lot of them are not gonna access the backline, right? There's a couple ghostly players, right? Which is really important to keep my Silas alive. And there's a lot of because then like if you have GA on this guy, the ghostly stacks don't transfer, right? Like the ghostly stack will stay on, but he'll have a second lease of life, which helps out a lot in this matchup in particular, which is one that I might be scared of, right? So as you can see, like when GA procs on him, I think the ghostly stacks don't move, but I just run over him anyway, so it's fine. But it's really good for like this matchup. There's also a Syndra player, right? I don't know where the Syndra player is, but Syndra doesn't access the backline ever, right? So I'm not worried about my backline getting hit with the Syndra. So I put the Xayah on the Sylas, which I think is okay. But realistically, if I'm going for like max cap, it's to put on the backline unit just because you can put a better item on Sylas, right? So even though it works out for some of the matchups pretty well, it being like a general AD item, especially when I'm lacking 3 items on Xayah and Xayah, it's better just to put it on those units. Another thing I want to talk about is this guy. Like, fuck this guy actually, which we'll talk about in a second. But I want to just go over my mistakes right now. Tattoo of Force would have been a better item. It would have been better to Tattoo of Force my Sylas and to GA either Xayah or the other one, right? This here or here, right? The other thing is I took Capricious Forge because it's usually really good with these cash out comps like Xayah because you're looking to make a lot of items. The problem is I don't really want a Capricious Forge this guy, right? But it's definitely Tattoo of Force him because like it's just armor and MR on a bruiser is really good. There's a lot of Galio's gone, so I'm not really rolling for Galio that much right now. This guy took... I'm pretty sure this is the Lux guy, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let me just go back, because he just FFs. But I'll talk about it in a second, because this guy just annoyed me, even when I was live. And I'll explain why. No, this guy's Behemoth. Who is this guy? What was he playing before? He's not the Lux guy. So it's not that guy. It was some other guy in a really bad spot. I think this was the Ghostly contest. Was he the Ghostly contester? I think he was the Ghostly contester, right? Anyways, so he wasn't a Fortune player though. I'm pretty sure, right? If he was a Fortune player, that's my bad. Because then it makes sense. But basically, if you didn't see on the carousel, there was a Fortune emblem and he took it, right? If I get a Fortune emblem, I can play 7 Fortune, right? And 7 Fortune is pretty much like an easy win. And the reason that I'm so upset or annoyed with it is because he's just playing Kingmaker, right? So I already accepted that I messed up my itemizations. As you can see, I have double Deathblade on Xayah because I'm trying to just like make any AD items I can. I have this Radiant Edge of Night on this guy, which isn't that good, right? Obviously, move this, put Force on here. Capricious Forge, I think is in stats says that it's good on Galio, but for me, there's like so many misses with the Capricious Forge that I'd rather just put on another front line. Ideally, I swap out one of these for like a Tom Kench, and I put the Capricious Forge on the Tom Kench because Tom Kench uses a lot of these items really, really well. But obviously, I'm not in a position to like do that. I already had like a bit of a messy transition up until now. This guy took the Fortune emblem from me. I'm in a position where I could like probably like I can't really tech in Fortune, but I could tech in 7 Fortune and get like a Giga cash out and win the game for free, right? Because I have the Fortune emblem on my dummy. He griefed it by taking the Fortune emblem and then just FF'd. When you're playing in this game, you should never ever grief somebody unless it directly affects your own placement, right? He's basically just playing Kingmaker. He looked at my spot and he decided, no, I don't want that guy to win. He's not gonna win the game. That's what he decided, right? I'm telling you right now, the reason I was so nervous with this transition and the reason why, like, you can see that it was very shaky was not because I was like, oh, I think I can win for free. It's because I know there's the Syndra player in the lobby. Even the Grim Harvest guy, the other guy. I'm telling you now, you can even go straight into my stream. You can look at the VOD. I was like, I'm pretty sure I lose to the Syndra guy anyways. Like, even at this point in the video, or this point in the game, I was like, the Syndra player is scaling the whole game. There was a very low chance that I beat the Syndra player, right? I'm like, the Syndra player will actually just beat me because my cash out isn't like a Giga cash out, right? If this was like Radiant Deathblade, then like, yeah, that would be like an insane item on either of these units, right? If it was like Radiant Spark or Radiant like Rabadons on Sylas, it's like, yeah, that would be like an insane item on Sylas, right? Because I don't have something that, like, even though my board is like insanely strong, I'm really far ahead, I'm level 10. Guess what? The Syndra player is also going to be level 10 because he streaked the whole stage and he's scaling the whole stage, right? The games get capped really high because everybody got Ari's Blessing and everybody got really strong dummies, right? Like the couple people that have it. Like, I'm pretty sure that guy is going to be 7 faded with Syndra scaling the whole game. So I'm pretty sure that I am fucked regardless. Anyways, I Tekken Exalted because my comp is very burst heavy, right? A lot of my comp matters about doing as much damage as possible, as early as possible, right? This Syndra player that's in first right now, that guy I'm pretty sure always beats me, because you'll see when the fight goes down, it's gonna be really like ridiculously difficult. But anyways, I put in Exalted here. What Exalted gives me is basically it's just giving me a damage amp, and I'm level 10. So this is basically as strong as I can possibly get in terms of like dumping out damage. Of course, I don't have 3 items on this dude. I don't even think I have Shred. Do I not even have Shred? I'm pretty sure it worked out because I wasn't playing towards Xayah from the start. I don't even have Shred components, right? So I don't even have like armor reduction, which is really bad. But this is what happens sometimes with Fortune, and obviously this is what I mean by I'm not the greatest Fortune player. You can see that this game in general is very messy, and I don't like go on a pedestal saying that I'm particularly amazing at any point in my life, right? Obviously I still have, just because of the dummy and the way units are on my board, I'm still getting like small Fortune cash outs. This Kabuko has a lot of HP, which is why I'm leaving the Kabuko in here, but I really should try and replace like something here. I guess I can't really replace anything. This has way more HP than anything. I can't really roll for like a 3-star 3 cost, 3-star 4 cost, because I'm not really close to anything. And now we can watch the Syndra fight, and you'll see what I mean. So this guy has Faded in, learning to spell, and he's level 9 just going to level 10, right? Like he's gonna be level 10 in like 1 or 2 turns. If you watch the damage, this Syndra is just railing everybody. And I'm still stuck that this Ornn is not living, right? Basically, with the Syndra comp, this guy is gaining Dryad stacks, as well as AP stacks on this Syndra for the entirety of the game, right? So the Syndra has like infinite AP. I should have probably checked it just to show you guys. But basically, his front line with Dryads is more tanky than my 6 Bruiser front line, right? 6 Bruiser is supposed to be really good, especially in this spot, but because this guy's stacking the whole game, he's literally 7 Faded, 4 Dryad, has a Faded Nautilus as well that just stuns my board. It's very difficult to beat that, so I'm very much outcapped, which is why this isn't a first, right? I take another item for Xayah. I'm splitting my units up because I'm trying to just like, I think there's the Ghostly guy has a Morgana, so I'm trying not to make like my whole backline just get absolutely railed by that. But as you can see, I'm a 4 trick shot. Obviously, like I have the bruiser trait, so my bruisers are very tanky, right? So I have a really strong tank trait. I don't really have like strong combat, but I do have 4 trick shot, 3 exalted, right? This is like one of the most capped versions of this board in terms of just like raw damage output. Obviously my items aren't the greatest, but I also have a Giant Slayer on her, so she does a bunch of bonus damage to these units as well. But the Ghostly guy, I'm basically gonna rail him. There's no question about that. This fight's gonna be very RNG, right? It just matters if my trick shots can kill this Syndra before she kills my front line, right? Because even with 6 Bruiser, the other guy's front line is gonna be way stronger. As you can see, I put the items on Kabuko here, just because Kabuko I think is a little bit tankier than some of the other units. It's probably played 3-star Irelia. Yeah, this was my mistake, right? I think this is my mistake. So this is probably like the most important thing, because I don't have Shred. I should have just played the Irelia. I really don't have Shred, right? Yeah, I never worked out that I had Shred, but I prioritized this Spark on this guy. Having Shred, they have a lot of HP, so it doesn't necessarily matter the greatest amount, because it's not like he has like that much armor as well, and I have so much raw damage. But this Irelia is probably better than Exalted, right? Irelia 2 gives Shred, as well as has helps to kill some of the backline unit. I don't know if it would have been the difference between me winning or losing this fight, but I definitely should have put in Irelia over Exalted, right? At the time, you know, I'm live, I'm talking to chat, there's a lot of things going through my mind. I already had a messy game, right? Like, as you can see, I'm literally like talking to somebody actively about something that's unrelated to the current game state, right? I'm just trying to say I had a large mental stack. That's all I'm trying to say, right? But the biggest problem here, I think, is the lack of Shred, which might have skewed the fight one way or the other. But the Irelia also hitting the backline is really important here. It's hard to position because I don't want to be same side as the Syndra, because I might just get absolutely obliterated. But you'll see this fight, I'm pretty sure I win one of these fights. So this fight, as you can see, the Syndra just died randomly because my Xayah hit her. So I win this fight, right? Because the Xayah just has enough damage, right? The damage isn't as much of an issue like the Shred versus not Shred. Because in my opinion, as long as I RNG hit this Syndra, I kind of win the fight. But that was very RNG, right? There was so many units alive and my Xayah just kind of like sniped the Syndra, right? That's why the Irelia is probably better. Here I sell the Irelia. I'm just holding Syndras because I don't want this guy to hit Irelia too. Or I don't want this guy to hit Syndra too. Maybe I just like get us Xayah. As you can see here, I'm also holding a bunch of sets, right? The reason I'm buying all these sets and I'm rolling so aggressively is because if this guy hits set 2, I know it's over, right? Like I said before, you grief somebody if it directly affects your placement. It's a 1v1. I need to beat this guy 2 times. I'm holding as many sets as possible to make sure that he doesn't hit set 2. Because set 2 with his current setup, as well as with 7 faded, like I don't need to deal with that, right? So that's why I'm rolling so aggressively here. Because it's like maybe I hit something. I'm holding these Syndras because like who cares, right? Ideally I get some upgrades to some of these shitters just to help out my front line a little bit. I'm trying to debate if I want more damage or this guy. This guy, he's not really doing that much, right? Obviously I could play like something else. Probably like Altruist is probably like somewhat helpful at one point. Probably more than Exalted. But I positioned same side here because I'm trying something else. That fight felt like too much RNG. And I wasn't sure if he was going to switch his Syndra side because of it. So I decided I'm just going to swap to this side. I put my Silas here because he has Radiant GA. And I figured that he would stall a little bit better. But as you can see, this was just horrible positioning. So I just lose the fight. I think I had a better chance if I just stayed in the same positioning. But that fight felt very RNG, right? Especially since I'm on like a timer. As soon as this guy hits a set, it's a problem. But like I said, as you can see here, we're both level 10. We both have fully upgraded boards. The game just lasted way too long for me to be able to clutch out a win. And this guy was just way too strong. As you can see, the Syndra has so much damage that my Silas just fucking gets obliterated. Six Bruiser Silas with a Radiant GA. She just like 2-tapped him. Obviously, the other thing that I messed up with the positioning here is that I didn't put the Galio on the same side. Or I put the Galio here, but it didn't get like I should have probably put the Silas somewhere else. I put the Silas on this side because I was hoping that maybe he can like snipe the Syndra, right? So as you can see here, I think he already procced GA because he just got 1-tapped. And then like the set stunned the Silas and brought him further back and then got re-aggroed again, right? I was kind of hoping that the set would stun this way, but you know, it just didn't really work out for me. And then you see the Xayah cast that it didn't. I don't think the Xayah cast there hit the Syndra either, right here. But this was why I was positioning this way because I wanted this. I know I got Nautilus stunned. That's also pretty bad. You see here, because this set came here, right? I was hoping that maybe my Xayah gets a shot off on the Syndra, but then the set tanks it. That's fine. Then right here, I'm pretty sure I don't target the Syndra at all, just because of the way the targeting happened. Right here. Oh no, I did hit the Syndra. It just didn't do any damage. Never mind. It did hit the Syndra. Just too many units alive. But yeah, it would be very hard to cap this guy. He also has Martyr. Frontlines recovering infinite HP. Learning to spell infinite AP. But this was like a basically like as good as like I can do Fortune game. I'm very bad at Fortune, right? Obviously, I talked about my shortcomings. The best way to improve at Fortune is to remove the randomness from it, right? You really want to be in a spot where you know exactly what's going to happen. That's why I showed you guys the Fortune table. I talked about the Fortune table. But yeah, it's not a first, sadly, but it's an okay game, right? Obviously, this guy as well, just griefing me for no reason. Playing Kingmaker, right? Like, if you go back to that carousel, he could have easily taken something. Like, you should never grief somebody directly in a game if it doesn't affect your placement, because like why is this guy griefing me, right? If I win the game, maybe I randomly kill this guy or I randomly kill this guy and this guy's placements could improve. You know what I mean? You should always take the thing that makes you the strongest at the moment, right? He should take an item for his Shen. He should take an item for his Senna. He only has 2 items on Senna and they're not even items, right? But anyways, it just happens like that, so it's fine. But anyways, other than that, like obviously I talked about my itemization. Capricious Forge, I took it because I wanted to put on Silas, but then I had these Silas items anyways, so it didn't work out. So my last gold augment wasn't particularly good, but I didn't really have the best options. Well Fed with Bruisers is pretty good with this comp. If you look at Well Fed with Bruisers, the trick shot line is very good. But Lucky Ricochet probably would have helped me more in this fight because my front line was going to die anyways. He just has more front line. And then my itemizations were pretty bad on these two units. Just because of like the way I slam my items really fast, I could have done a little bit better. Would those have affected the outcome of this fight? It might have made it so I went first, right? It was very close. I did win one fight. If I had a little bit more HP, as well as I had a little bit of a stronger board, maybe some of those less RNG fights would have been a little bit better. And I also missed that I didn't have Shred. Having the Shred with the Irelia was probably better than Exalted. And that could have maybe, I'm not sure if it would have been a first, but especially if my Irelia snipes the Syndra, it was definitely a stronger board. So, you know, should have definitely considered that. But anyways, I like to point out all the mistakes so that when you guys play it, you can play it a little bit better. Obviously, it's very stressful to play Fortune. And hopefully you have a better experience with Fortune, right? Make sure that even if you don't memorize it, check your cash out table ahead of time. Make sure you know what you're going to get so that you're a little bit better off, and then play around those. Anyways, have a great time, and bye-bye.